She's like a sickness in my brain. Vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. She'll put the pressure in your fragile skull.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today we're talking about the case of Miss Brooke Skylar Richardson. And before we get into that case and I get upset, let's talk about something fun and have a word from our sponsor, who today is Live Love Polish. Now, I have been using Live Love Polish's nail polishes for probably 6 months, and I love them. I've loved them even before they agreed to partner with me and sponsor a video. But I just wanted to talk to you guys about their new collection today. It's the Jane Austen collection. The Jane Austen collection honors the legendary author's impact and influence. She wrote 6 major novels, so Live Love Polish created 6 unique polishes to pay homage to one of history's most popular authors. 4 of the 6 nail polishes are temperature reactive, which I love. They've had temperature reactive polishes in their collections before, and they're some of my most favorite nail polishes to use. The polishes will change color depending on whether your hands are hot or cold, or whether you've just put them in warm water or cold water, and if your nails are long enough, the tips will perpetually be a different color than the rest of the polish, because obviously the tips of your nails aren't touching your body and aren't affected as much by your body's heat. So it always looks so cool. So I'm going to show you really quick. So this one right here is called Sense and Sensibility. It's temperature reactive and it transitions between amethyst when it's cold or dark periwinkle and beige when it's warm. So you can see all 4 of these are the temperature reactive ones. So Sense and Sensibility is the one we're talking about right here. But if I put them into cold water, oh, there they go. Right back to their old colors. Oh, I spilled water all over. This is Be a Lady right here, and it's a metallic rose gold polish. This is not temperature reactive, but it's gorgeous. And this one's called My Cassandra, and it's a gray top kind of shimmer nail polish, but it has blue to purple shifting sparkles and glitter in it.
First up is Sense and Sensibility. Next is By a Lady, and it's a metallic rose gold polish with scattered holographic glitter. Moving on to Wisdom or Wit. Next is First Impressions. Next up is My Dear Cassandra. Last up is All Her Kind Designs.
I love Live Love Polish's nail polishes. The only reason I'm not wearing this collection currently is because 3 days ago I watched a documentary for a video I'm doing for Halloween, and it was so intense and so crazy I bit off all my nails except for my thumbnails. And so I'm not wearing any nail polish right now because it's not possible. But my nails are so tiny and little that I always struggle with nail polishes. But for some reason, Live Love Polish, I don't know if it's the formula or the brush or both, it just goes on my nails so easily with no mess, and it dries really, really fast, which I love because I'm a mom and I have kids running around and I don't have a lot of time to just sit there and wait for my nails to dry. So I love how fast it dries. I love how it applies, and it lasts so long without chipping. They're cruelty-free, vegan, non-toxic. They're based out of the United States right here in New York City. And if you want to purchase any of the polishes out of the Jane Austen collection, I've included an affiliate link in my description box, and you can go ahead and click that link and get 10% off of your purchase. Okay, so that's going to be it for our sponsor for this video. Thank you so much to Live Love Polish. Thank you guys for watching the sponsor, and let's get started on the video. So this is one of those cases where I definitely have a hard time not giving my opinion on, and I feel really confused about some of the reaction after this case, because I just feel like this is a no-brainer. And I feel that a lot of people are kind of maybe overthinking it. So let's talk about Brooke Skylar Richardson, what she did, her trial, what the outcome of the trial was, and then we'll discuss what I feel about it, and then we can talk about it together in the comment section. When this first happened, Brooke was a senior in high school. She was 18 years old. She was on the cheerleading team. She was looking forward to starting college in the fall. In August of 2016, Brooke had a month-long relationship with a gentleman named Trey Johnson. Now, Trey, I believe, was either 18 or 19 years old at this time. They had sex twice, but they only used protection one of these 2 times. So as a result, Brooke became pregnant with Trey's child. But she did not tell him that she was carrying his child. She didn't tell anybody. After the relationship ended, when she broke it off, they had no further contact. According to Brooke, she had no idea that she was pregnant until she went to her OB on April 26th of 2017 to obtain birth control. She went to the doctor with her mother, who remained in the waiting room. When she was with the doctor, there was some question as to when her last menstrual period had been, and Brooke was given a pregnancy test which came back positive. At that point, she broke down in tears and told her doctor, "I can't have this baby." According to this doctor, Brooke was already into her 3rd trimester and the fetal heartbeat was healthy and strong. Now, Brooke begged this doctor to give her the prescription for birth control, saying, I have to show my mother this prescription when we leave because that's what we came in for. And the doctor was kind of like, I don't really feel right about this, but gave her the prescription and told her, "I'm going to give you this prescription on the assumption that you're going to come back in and get some tests done and have blood tests and have an ultrasound and start some prenatal care." Brooke also made it very clear to the doctor that this doctor should not tell her mother. 11 days later, Brooke gave birth to a baby that she claimed was stillborn. She did this in her own home, in the middle of the night, in her bathroom, and she claims that she gave birth to the baby into the toilet. She'd begun having labor pains earlier in the day. She didn't call the doctor. She didn't go to the hospital. She just had these labor pains and continued on with her day. And later that night, obviously in the middle of the night, while her parents slept in their room downstairs and her brother slept in his room right next to her, she gave birth to this baby by herself. And like I said, she claimed that the baby had no heartbeats, that the baby wasn't breathing. So what she ended up doing after this was, instead of waking up her parents or once again calling for help, she took the baby's body downstairs. She went into her garage. She got a shovel of some kind or some digging implement. She went into her backyard and dug a hole and put the baby as well as everything else, even though we're unclear as to what everything else is, because she told her doctor later, "I buried all of it." So she buried all of it in this hole in her backyard, filled the hole in, and went on with her life. Brooke said nothing about this to anybody. The next day, she texted her mother and said, "I am literally speechless with how happy I am. I am literally so excited right now just for dinner to wear something cute. Yay, my belly is back. OMG, I am never, ever, ever letting it get like this again, and you're about to see me look better than ever. Now I am taking this opportunity to make it amazing." She also texted her boyfriend at the time the morning after and told him, "Last night was like the worst ever, but I feel so much better this morning. I'm happy." She spent the next few months going to the gym and taking pictures of her weight loss progress. 2 days before delivering her own baby, Brooke went to her senior prom with her new boyfriend. The day before delivering her baby, she went to a baseball game with her family and her boyfriend. She texted her boyfriend that day and said even though she wasn't feeling well and she was having cramps, she still wanted to go to the game. Both her current boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend who was the baby's father, and all of her family said she never at any point told any of them that she was pregnant and going through this. On July 12th, Brooke went back to the OB to get a refill on her birth control prescription. And at this point, the doctor pretty much said, "Hey, what happened? Last time you were here, you were, in your 3rd trimester of pregnancy. And now you're not pregnant anymore. So where's the baby? What happened?" And at that point, Brooke broke down and told the doctor that she'd given birth to the baby on her own and then buried it in the backyard. Afterwards, the doctor did contact the police. The police headed over to Brooke's home to question her and to find the remains of her baby in the backyard. When they tell Brooke during their first interview with her that the doctor's office has already contacted them and told them what she said, she breaks down. She says, "My parents are going to kill me. I didn't want to tell them, but now they're going to find out." 3 days later, the baby's remains are examined by a forensic pathologist named Dr. Susan Brown. Dr. Brown determined that the baby had died from homicidal violence. Since it had been 2 months, the baby's remains were badly decomposed. So Dr. Susan Brown said, yes, it's true that from the bones that I have left, I can't really tell how this baby died, but you have to take into account all the evidence, not just what is in front of you on the examining table. So she took into account not only the autopsy of this baby, but Brooke's statements to the police and everything else, her statements to the doctor. She took in all the evidence when making this claim that the baby had died from homicidal violence or homicidal violence. Another forensic pathologist named Dr. Beth Murray had previously taken a look at the baby's remains and determined that the bones had charring on them. Now, armed with this information, the police, when they interviewed Brooke for the second time, basically told her, "We know something else happened than what you told us initially." And they explained to her that they had seen charring on the baby's bones. So they basically kept prompting her, like, did you try to cremate your baby? This is perfectly normal. If you did, it's okay. You just have to tell us. And she denied this 17 times before finally admitting to it and saying, yes, I did. I put a lighter on the baby, but just really quickly, and I put it on her foot, but the flames spread really quickly before I could put it out. It's just horrible. It's horrible to read what she said. So now they had a confession, essentially, that Brooke had tried to set her baby on fire. But when the second pathologist took a look at the baby's remains, she said she could see no evidence that the bones were charred or that there had been any fire involved. She claims that the initial forensic pathologist, Dr. Murray, had been incorrect in this assumption. The police still evidently used this information to arrest Brooke and to get this confession from her. So Brooke's second interview took place on July 20th. That's when they tell her that they know what she did and that she tried to cremate the baby, and she denies it 17 times before finally admitting to it. Once they have this admission from her, she is promptly arrested and charged with reckless homicide. Okay, so her trial has just essentially wrapped up this week, and you can actually see the whole trial on YouTube. It's very interesting, but obviously incredibly lengthy, so if you don't have time to watch that whole trial, you can read summaries of it online, and obviously this would be the Cliff Notes version here. But in this trial, her defense team tries to paint a picture of Brooke as a scared young girl who didn't know what to do, who had mentally gone through a lot of things in her life, and who definitely didn't want anybody to know about the baby, but who did not take her own child's life. They claim that the baby was a stillborn and she didn't know what to do, but she figured she could just take the body and give it a burial and nobody would find out and things would go back to normal. They claim that if the baby had been born alive, Brooke would have told her parents and asked for help. They also claim that Brooke struggled with an eating disorder since the 8th grade. They claim that this is why Brooke didn't know she was pregnant until she went to the doctor's office, because due to her low body weight, she often had irregularities in her menstrual cycle. And although she gained some weight during the pregnancy, she didn't know what was causing the weight gain, so this kicked her eating disorder into high gear, essentially, causing her to starve herself to try to lose the weight that she was gaining. Her attorneys also claim that she never tried to cremate the baby, but after being broken down during interrogation, she told the police what they wanted to hear. Because of past sexual abuse at the age of 12, Brooke had a tendency to submit to people in positions of authority. Now, of course, the prosecution had a different story to tell and a different picture to paint. They said that Brooke was a teenager who did not want to become a single mother, who knew that having a baby was going to change everything in her life, her plans to go off to college in the fall, her relationship with her new boyfriend. So she took that baby's life when it was born and then hid the evidence. When she was interviewed by the police, she claimed she didn't really want to have a baby and she didn't know what her plans were. She said she had tried to have it taken care of, but by the time she found out that she was pregnant, it was too late. So she clearly did not want a baby. She clearly did not want to be a mother, and that's what the prosecution is saying. The prosecution also draws attention to the text that Brooke sent to her boyfriend and her mother, literally within a day after going through this, what you would think would be an incredibly traumatic event. Giving birth to a child that was not breathing, being by yourself, going through hours and hours and hours of labor by yourself, and then having to hold the body of your child who wasn't breathing, and then to have to find a way to dispose of the body. So this would obviously be a traumatic event for anybody. But within, 18 to 20 hours after this happened, the next day, she was texting her mother about how she was so happy that her body was back, her stomach was back. She was going to work to get her body in better shape and never let herself get that way again. She was texting her boyfriend saying, last night was the worst, but I'm happy now. Additionally, after going to the doctors the day that they told her she was pregnant, and they gave her that prescription for birth control, Brooke filled that prescription and began taking the birth control pills, knowing that she was pregnant. When the OBGYN's office repeatedly called her, trying to get her to come back in, she ignored those calls. The prosecution also brought forward evidence showing that Brooke had Googled how to get rid of a baby after finding out that she was pregnant at the doctor's office. There was also a lot of concentration on both sides, the defense and the prosecution, on Brooke's mother and the personality of Brooke's mother, how her personality and the way that she was affected her daughter, their dynamic, their relationship. They claim that Brooke's mother was also image obsessed and basically projected this onto her daughter. This contributed to Brooke's low self-esteem and body dysmorphia, and there was texts that were shown in court between Brooke and her mother, because what happened was, allegedly, the doctor's office had accidentally sent Brooke's mother an email giving her the pregnancy results. So Brooke's mother texted her when she was at school and said, what the heck is going on here? And Brooke responded, hey, I just got to school. That's a mistake. That's not true. It's a mistake. And I'll call you as soon as I can. And Brooke's mother responded back to her saying, you need to call me now. If this is true, this is going to ruin everything, essentially. More specifically, what she said was she wanted Brooke to have a future, stating this eliminates all that. Basically saying, if you're pregnant, your life's over. In the weeks after she gave birth to her baby and buried it in the backyard, Brooke sent her mother pictures of herself and her weight loss, basically trying to show her mother that she was losing this weight and wanting her mother to be proud of her and give her acceptance. Brooke also texted her mother one day telling her that she'd lost 20 pounds, and it was announced in the classroom and everybody clapped for her. And Brooke's mother responded back to her, I could cry. You literally are my hero. When her parents came to see her at the police station, before she was arrested, but after her second interview, Brooke told her mother, I tried to cremate the baby just a little bit, which completely shocked her father. And he was like, did you give birth to a baby that was alive? And she confirmed to him that she did. And she keeps calling the baby it. Now we know that this baby is not an it. This was a little baby girl who was born to Brooke, who was given the name Annabelle after everything went down. This was a little baby girl, but instead of calling this baby, my child, or even her, Brooke keeps referring to the baby as it. And that was something that really stuck out to me while I was watching her interviews with the police, as well as her discussion with her parents, which was recorded because it was in the interview room. So we go through the trial, the jury deliberates. Brooke was found not guilty of aggravated murder, involuntary homicide, and child endangerment, only being charged with abuse of a corpse and allowed to leave a free woman facing only probation. When Brooke walked out of that courtroom to live the rest of her life untethered, those who had never gotten the chance to meet her child, such as its paternal grandparents, sadly realized that Annabelle would have been 2 years old at this time. Trey Johnson's mother said, quote, broken, shattered, destroyed. None of them seem to fit the amount of pain I have felt ever since we found out that not only did I lose my first grandchild, but my baby, who I would lay down my life for without a thought, lost his first child. And Skylar had no intention of letting us know. Okay, so let's talk about it now. I don't even know where to start. So Brooke Richardson, she's a teenager, 18 years old. She gets pregnant. She's obviously not planning this. This is an unplanned pregnancy. She's no longer with the kid who got her pregnant. She's dating somebody else. She's going to college in the fall. She's excited about her life as a young person journeying off into the world, and she knows that having a baby is going to obviously disrupt that. The defense would like you to believe that Brooke planned on having this baby and keeping this baby. And I think it's ridiculous because in no way, shape, or form do I believe that Brooke Richardson planned to keep this baby. It's kind of ridiculous that anybody would think she was planning on that. When she found out she was pregnant, she literally told the doctor, I can't have this baby. Don't tell my parents. Nobody can know. She told nobody. She didn't even tell any friends. She didn't tell the father of the baby. She told nobody. She kept it a complete secret. After finding out that she was pregnant, she didn't take prenatal pills. She didn't seek out counseling or help to find out a way that she could take care of her baby even at that late stage. She began taking birth control pills that the doctor had given her. She didn't go online and search for baby clothes. She didn't go online and search for bassinets or diapers. She went online and searched for, how do you get rid of a baby? She claims herself that she had considered getting an abortion, but it had been too late at that point. Because, I mean, at this point, you're far into the third trimester. She gave birth to this baby 11 days after going to the doctor and finding out that she was pregnant. Now, allegedly, they had told her that she had about 10 weeks before she would be giving birth. But then she only had 11 days. And the defense used this to say that the doctors had set her up with like false pretenses or false expectations. She thought she had more time to inform her family and prepare her parents for this. First of all, when you find out that you're pregnant and you are very far along, 11 days is more than enough time to tell your parents that you're pregnant. Second of all, you really can't blame the doctor, as they only had a heartbeat monitor to listen to the baby and try to figure out through an exam how far along she was. She didn't let them give her an ultrasound. She never came back for an ultrasound to find out exactly how far along she was so that they could give her a better idea of when a due date would be. So that's really not the doctor's fault at all. Do I think that the doctor should have given her birth control pills knowing she was pregnant, or given her a prescription for birth control pills knowing she was pregnant? Absolutely not. I think that's extremely irresponsible. Do I think it's possible that Brooke may have taken a bunch of these birth control pills, hoping that it would cause her baby to miscarry? Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think it's also very possible that the way that she behaved while pregnant with this child, probably allegedly taking multiple birth control pills, not eating, not taking care of herself, it may have attributed to this baby coming prematurely and maybe some issues with the baby. She in no way made any preparations to have a baby in her life. So what does she plan on doing if she gave birth to this happy, healthy, completely fine baby in her bathroom into the toilet? And what was she going to do after that? She was going to just walk into her parents' room while they were asleep and be like, you guys are grandparents, congratulations. Or was she just going to like have the baby with her all night and then in the morning just walk down to breakfast and pour herself a bowl of cereal and act like nothing happened? It doesn't make any sense. Even for somebody who claimed they had no plan on what they were going to do with this pregnancy or once the baby came, you have to at some point when it's imminent and it's happening and you're giving birth and you're in labor, you have to formulate some kind of plan at this point of how you're going to break it to your parents and everybody in your life that you've been pregnant for all of these months and you never told them. So I wanted to know for my own information, how common is a stillbirth? Now, I know people who have had babies that were stillborn. It's incredibly tragic. It is probably one of the worst experiences that a person can go through in their life. To have to carry a baby for so many months, have to give birth to it, sometimes already knowing that this baby did not survive, and then go through all of that and all the anticipation and all the preparation, decorating a nursery, buying clothes, giving it a name, feeling it kick inside of you, growing an attachment to it, loving it already, and then have to hold your child who is lifeless and say goodbye to it. I cannot imagine what that would be like. I don't know if I could ever recover. I have a friend who went through something, and she is actually one of the strongest people I've ever known. She went on to do something so positive with her experience and her pain, and she created something called the Cooper Project because Cooper was going to be the name of her son when he was born. And this woman now provides help and resources and support to other women and families who are going through this incredibly difficult time. And this actually comes at a perfect time because October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. In 1988, President Ronald Reagan declared October a month to recognize the unique grief of bereaved parents in an effort to demonstrate support to the many families who have suffered such a tragic loss. So my friend, whose name is Jen, she's taking part in something called the Pink and Blue Awareness Project. The Pink and Blue Awareness Project is an awareness campaign for the month of October, which is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and they invite people to wear a free pink and blue bracelet for the whole month of October to raise awareness. During this month, we stand by these families to show that they're loved and supported. We remember all the babies that are no longer with us. Wearing a bracelet can help facilitate meaningful conversations and break the silence of such a taboo subject. Anyone can wear a bracelet, men, women, children. You don't have to have experienced a loss to wear one. In fact, many people who have worn these bracelets in the past have worn them just to show support for others. Now, I will put a link in my description box if you guys want to order your free blue or pink bracelet and wear them to show support for so many who have gone through this. I do believe they're sold out right now, but I think that they're coming back, so you can just keep checking back. Also, go ahead and follow Jen at the Cooper Project on her Instagram page to get updates on when that's happening, or if there's restocks, or just anything else that you could do to help. I will post a link to her Instagram in my description box. But what I'm trying to get at here is I wanted to do some research and see how common a stillbirth is. And on the March of Dimes website, it says most stillbirths happen before a woman goes into labor, but a small number happen during labor and birth. Stillbirth affects about 1 in 100 pregnancies each year in the United States, and this is about 1% of all pregnancies and about 24,000 babies. So it does obviously happen, and we know it happens quite a bit. But something that was important to note in that article was most of them happen before birth. But 11 days prior, Brooke had been to the doctor, and they listened to the heartbeat and said it was perfectly fine and healthy. The main reason that Brooke got an innocent verdict from the jury was because they claimed that the prosecution could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that baby had been born alive. And the prosecution made a very good point when they responded, how could we have possibly have proved that, considering that she hid her baby in the ground for 2 months and didn't tell anybody. And by the time we recovered it, it was too badly decomposed to tell anything. So they couldn't tell if there'd been water in its lungs, as if it had been drowned. They wouldn't have been able to tell if it had been smothered. And in my opinion, Brooke was rewarded for being able to keep such a huge secret from everybody that she knew for so long, and to be able to keep the secret after giving birth and burying this baby for long enough that when the body was recovered, it was too degraded to get any real evidence off of it. My personal opinion, I do not believe that that baby was born a stillborn. 11 days prior, they had heard the heartbeat. The baby was fine. Now, obviously, it's very possible, considering she was delivering this child herself, that something could have gone wrong. She didn't know. She couldn't say whether the umbilical cord had been wrapped around her neck when she was born. She couldn't really say anything besides the fact that when the baby was born, she wasn't breathing, even though initially she'd said the baby maybe was breathing, and maybe she'd been alive for about 5 minutes, and maybe she saw her arm move. So that's another issue here, is her story obviously continually changed. And could some of that have been from police interrogation? Could some of that have been them leading her to say certain things, just hoping she would get out of there and be able to go home? Of course, it's always an option. It's always a possibility. But if your baby was born not breathing, without a heartbeat, why would you ever say that it had been born alive for about 5 minutes, or that you think you saw its arm? Why would you ever say that? Because that's not the truth. And it's not a truth that's going to help your story. It's not a truth that's going to make you look better. So it just doesn't make sense why she would make that up or cop to it if it never happened and it wasn't true. There is no evidence that this girl planned to keep this baby or to integrate this baby into her life. She didn't look for adoption services or somebody to take the baby from her after she had it. She didn't ask her parents for help so she would know that she had their support after she had this baby. She didn't want to have this baby. Not only did she not want to raise the baby, but she didn't want anybody to know that she even gave birth, because it would change the way that her parents and the people that she knew viewed her. And according to the prosecution, this family, the Richardsons, are extremely concerned with their appearance and how things look from an outside perspective. Now, is that all her fault? No. Obviously, if she has gone through these things in her life, eating disorders and abuse at a young age, and having a mother who consistently makes you feel like you have to modify and change your body in order to be accepted, that's incredibly hard, and you're obviously going to grow up with some issues. However, she wasn't a 15-year-old. She wasn't a 16-year-old. She was an 18-year-old. She knows the difference between right and wrong. She knows what she did. Everything that she did was wrong. And we could say it's her parents' fault because they made her feel like she couldn't be open, or they made her feel like she couldn't tell them. That's only going to take it so far, especially if she purposely ended that baby's life after she was born. And I'm not really judging Brooke because I don't know what happened. I think it looks incredibly bad. Myself, I was a teenage mother. I was 17 years old when I gave birth to my oldest daughter, and obviously it completely changed my life. I had to put off going to college. I had to work 2 to 3 jobs for several years in order to, stay afloat. My parents were not super happy or supportive when I told them that I was pregnant. In fact, I ended up moving out of my mother's house. But eventually, everybody just came to terms with it and helped me and supported me and accepted me because it's family and they loved me and they didn't want to turn their backs on me, and they're good people. And I do believe that no matter how obsessed Brooke's parents were with image, they're still good people and they would still help her care for her child and raise her child. There was a multitude of things that Brooke could have done with that baby, like give it up for adoption. I mean, you've already basically carried it and given birth to it. Why not give it up for adoption to a family that cannot have children and really, really wants a baby? But instead she hid it and gave birth to this baby on her own, which I would only assume is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I mean, I've given birth 3 times in a hospital. 2 of those times was without any medication, and I don't know how I survived. There was times during the labor that I thought I wasn't going to survive because that's how hard and painful it is. So she was able to do this on her own. She was so motivated in hiding the fact that this baby ever existed. She didn't even want to go to a hospital to have it done properly and safely and give the child the best option of surviving. And that's another thing, because even if, let's say she did not end this baby's life when this baby was born alive, everything that she did in the days and the weeks leading up to this baby's birth were so contrary to wanting the baby to be healthy and to survive, taking the birth control pills, starving herself. Who knows what else she did? And maybe some of the things she did prompted that baby to be born earlier than expected, which is going to lower its chance of survival, especially if it's not born in a hospital where there's medical staff on hand to take the baby when it's born and not breathing and put it on a respirator or help it breathe or figure out what's wrong with it and fix it. In my opinion, she did absolutely nothing that was in this child's best interest. Everything she did was in her best interest. And to not even be charged with child abuse or child neglect, which clearly I think we can say that she did neglect that child, and what she did in the moments after it was born, who knows? Only Brooke knows what happened. What she did after that did not coincide with caring if the baby survived or died. Because if she cared if that baby survived or died, she would have given birth in a hospital. And don't say like, oh, she didn't have enough time, so she just was at her house and she didn't know what to do, so she just gave birth. This labor lasted for hours. I think like 11, 12, or 13 hours. This was her first child, so it's not going to just be there in a second. It takes time. Her body's not used to giving birth and going through the motions of giving birth. This took hours. She knew the day before she was having cramps. She knew that she was probably going to go into labor. And the morning of, when she was beginning to have contractions, she knew she was going into labor. She still told nobody and she still called nobody. And in my opinion, she is responsible for that baby either being born dead or dying shortly after it was born. And did I want Brooke to go to prison for the rest of her life? Did I think she should have been charged with, murder and spent the rest of her life in prison? No. I know that we don't live in a world where things like that happen. I know we don't live in a world with a justice system that works that way. I would have liked to have seen her do some jail time. I would have liked to have seen her take some accountability for the mistakes that she made. I would have liked to have seen her understand that what she did was wrong and now she has to pay the price, because letting her walk out of that courtroom on probation, it's barely a slap on the wrist. It's not even a slap on the wrist. And now you're sending a message to every person out there who gets pregnant and doesn't want their parents to know and doesn't want to, raise any red flags by going to the doctor. You're going to see them think, well, as long as I can, go through this pregnancy and nobody finds out about it, as long as I can give birth and nobody finds out about it, and as long as I can hide the body for long enough where nobody will find it until it's, completely decomposed, I can get away with this. And that's a dangerous precedent to set. I'm honestly disgusted by the whole thing, and the jury was interviewed after, and they said, there was absolutely no evidence that the prosecution could give us to show that this baby had been born alive. And that's true, but that's Brooke's fault. That's Brooke's fault, because she hid that baby for so long that by the time they got their hands on it, it was too decomposed to tell anything. And why should she be rewarded for doing something illegal and then being able to hide the evidence for long enough until you couldn't get anything off of it? And I watched a press conference that the district attorney's office gave after she had, gotten the decision on whether she was guilty or not guilty. They hadn't sentenced her yet, but it just felt like everybody who was asking questions was so much more focused on, well, you guys said the baby was, the bones were charred, but then it came out that that wasn't the truth, and you guys used that to make people think that she had done something to her baby. Like, they kept asking him questions about this over and over again. And I kept thinking to myself, this isn't really the point, is it? Because even if you take away the bones are charred thing, even if you take that away, there's still so much circumstantial evidence that shows Brooke probably gave birth to a baby that was alive and then ended its life on her own. If anything, the proof shows that she knew she was pregnant, hid it, and probably did something to her own body in order to reduce its likelihood of being born alive. That's just my opinion, though. I think that people are really focusing on the wrong thing in this trial. And for the most part, when I saw that press conference and I saw the reporters kind of just berating this guy about the charred bones thing, the police didn't make up the charred bones thing. They had gotten that from a forensic pathologist. And then obviously, yes, did they run with it? Did they use it to arrest her? Did they use it to get her to confess to things that maybe she felt forced to confess to? What they did that was wrong does not take away from what she did that was wrong. And kind of when you're talking about a life here, a life of a newborn baby, an innocent baby, and the fact that she did something wrong that ended a life, and the police officers did something wrong that made the public think she was more guilty than she was, I guess. Or as soon as they heard that charred bone story, people were like, absolutely, she did it. But still, as soon as the police and the district attorney got the information that the first pathologist had been incorrect, they gave that information over to the defense within a week. And, they gave the defense the opportunity to have the information and the truth so that they could argue it in court, which they did, and there you go. So they did the right thing. It's not as if they were doing anything illegal. Did they act a little sneaky about it? Because there's some reports saying that the police knew that the bones were not charred when they arrested her, and that they kind of used that information specifically to arrest her. I'm not sure. Once again, who knows? But the district attorney's office 100% believes that Brooke Richardson ended her baby's life after it was born, and I do too. I wouldn't say 100%. So there's like 98% of me that believes it, and there's like a 2% part of me that's like, well, maybe the baby was born as a stillborn, but if it was, it's because of what she did to herself and to that baby while she was pregnant with the baby, and she was supposed to be carrying it and caring for it to make sure that it had the best chances of survival. So that's where I stand on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. This was a tough one. This was one that I got a lot of requests for. A lot of you guys wanted to know what I feel about it. And I think a lot of you already knew probably what I was going to feel about it since I posted something on Twitter. I just think she should have gotten a harsher punishment. I think that you're setting the standards for other people to follow in her footsteps. To me, Brooke Richardson, in the way that she acts and the way she lies and the way that she hides things, is Casey Anthony 2.0, because this is exactly what happened with Casey Anthony. Casey was pregnant for months and months and months and just kept telling people she was gaining weight, and then her parents were telling people, yeah, she's just gaining weight, and then all of a sudden she had a baby. It shows a personality that's narcissistic. It shows a personality that's self-centered. And honestly, like I said, I was pregnant at a young age, and you can say all teenage girls are self-centered and narcissistic, and any teenage girl would do that, but we know that's not true, right? Because there's many, many teenage girls who do get pregnant and end up having the baby and either giving it up for adoption or caring for it. And yes, does it make your life harder? Absolutely. But does it mean your life's over? No. It's very difficult, and I would never talk to a teenage girl and say, you should have a baby when you're 18 or 17, because that's not what you should do. But if you're going to be grown enough to have sexual intercourse and not take precautions to prevent pregnancy, you should be grown enough to understand the signs of your body, and when something's not right, go to a doctor far before you're in the 3rd trimester and take responsibility for what you've caused and what you've done. Obviously, looking back, I would change nothing about my life. My daughter is now almost 18 years old. She's going to college in the fall, or she is at college now, so she's going to college now. And I am so proud of the person that she's become. And we've been best friends forever, so I would not change a thing. But my life would have obviously been easier, but probably gone differently had I not gotten pregnant when I was 17. I probably would have gone to college out of state. I may have gone for something besides psychology. I probably wouldn't be here sitting in front of you right now. I was planning on going to Boston and going to law school before I got pregnant. And that just didn't happen. But that's okay. Once I knew I was pregnant and there was a life inside of me, I couldn't imagine not seeing it through and meeting this person. This small little person who would become a part of me. And it has nothing to do with being pro-life or pro-choice or whatever, because I personally couldn't imagine not having my child. It doesn't mean I judge others or don't support others who want to take their choice and their body into their own hands. And because she was so vehement on not having anybody find out, I have no doubt in my mind she was never planning on having her daughter Annabelle be something that was known to anybody. Not her parents, not the child's father, nobody. Therefore, you have to ask yourself as a logical human being, well, what was her plan then if that baby was born alive? And if you ask yourself, well, what was her plan if that baby was born alive and she was never going to have anybody find out about it, you might then again ask yourself, well, maybe the baby was born alive. So no matter what you think about the justice system, no matter what you think about how the police handled it or how the defense handled it, and the defense kept repeating over and over again, reasonable doubt, literally pounding it into the jury's heads. Reasonable doubt, yes. Reasonable doubt is very important. However, you have many people who have gone to prison for murders when there really has only been circumstantial evidence, and there really hasn't been anything that would point to it directly 100% and say this person's guilty, they did it. And you have many people who have gotten off on a reasonable doubt, like Casey Anthony. And we all know that I believe, and I'm pretty sure everybody believes here, that Casey Anthony killed her daughter, Kaylee. Yet she is walking free now, and she's not facing any time or any kind of consequences for what she did or what I believe she did allegedly. So it's tough. It's a very tough case. It was hard for me to go over. I think that if this child had obviously been older, if you were able to see pictures of the child alive and smiling and, moving around, the jury would have had a different verdict. I think because the baby was a newborn and hadn't even been given a name at birth, and there was no pictures of it to see it laughing and eating and being a baby, the jury had a hard time viewing this child as an actual baby. And that's obviously an issue as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you soon. Stay kind and stay beautiful. Bye.